So, ladies and gentlemen, today on our Vintage Sports File, we're going to look at the long career in hockey and the very respected career in the sport of Grant Fuhr. Now, this will be a two-part series. First part will cover his time leading up to his spectacular play with the Oilers and him leaving the franchise under rough circumstances. Second part will cover his post-Oilers career and a breakdown of his NHL statistics and awards. So this first part will be talking about how he came to major prominence and how he's has the distinction of probably being one of the most important First Nation athletes in NHL history and black athletes as well. It's a little bit complicated, but we're going to get into it. Now, Grant Scott Fuhr, born in Spruce Grove, Alberta, Canada, played the majority of his career in the NHL, but also post-NHL, has been a goalie coach for the Arizona Coyotes. In 2003, he was inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he's best remembered again for his stellar decade of play for the Edmonton Oilers, where he won numerous cups in the 80s and early 1990s. Now he's a 5-time Stanley Cup winner and a 6-time NHL All-Star. Now in 2017, he was named one of the 100 greatest NHL players in history. He set a number of firsts for black hockey players as well as Aboriginal hockey players, including being the first to win the Stanley Cup and being the first inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now, Fuhr was born to an African-Canadian parent and one Caucasian parent, but was adopted by parents Betty Wheeler and Robert Fuhr and raised in Spruce Grove, Alberta. In the mid-1970s, Fuhr played for the Enoch Tomahawks hockey team, as Fuhr's mother came from the Enoch Cree First Nation. In 1979, at the age of 17, he joined the Victoria Cougars of the WHL, where he put up two very outstanding seasons, which including a league championship and a trip to the Memorial Cup. Now, with Victoria, his best season was 81, 48 wins, 9 losses, and 1 tie in 59 starts, and 12-3 in the postseason and 1-3 in the Memorial Cup. So 78 games that year, ladies and gentlemen, 61 victories, and a very, very solid goals against average throughout the campaign and in the playoffs. Now, Fuhr's situation allowed him to be drafted 8 overall in the 81 draft by the Edmonton Oilers. But let's have a little bit of background, ladies and gentlemen. Andy Moog was the star goalie for the Oilers in the 81 playoffs, where he knocked off Montreal and made it to the quarterfinals. Edmonton had tried a whole bunch of players in net in those 2 seasons when he jumped from the WHA to the NHL. Jim Corsi, Pete Lopresti, Eddie Mio, Ron Lowe, again Andy Moog, Gary Edwards. Wasn't working out. They figured with Fuhr, he could probably be a number 1 or a good backup or a number 2. Now, Fuhr eventually played 10 seasons from 81 to 91 for the Islanders, where he teamed up first with Andy Moog, then Bill Ranford, to form one of the most formidable goaltending tandems in history. And again, he won the Stanley Cup 4 times in 5 seasons between 84 and 88. Now, Moog was given the starting job in the 83 playoffs and helped lead the Oilers to their first Stanley Cup. However, they were swept by the Islanders in their 4th straight cup. The next year, GM and head coach Glenn Sader chose to go with Fuhr in the 84 playoffs, though Fuhr was injured in the 3rd game of the finals in a rematch against the Islanders when he collided with Pat LaFontaine. So Moog stepped in and led the Oilers to a series win. Thereafter, Fuhr remained the number 1 goalie. Fuhr was also involved with the infamous goal where Steve Smith scored on his own net to cost the Oilers the 86 playoffs against the Calgary Flames. That wasn't Fuhr's fault. He was right in possession, but unfortunately Steve made a mental mistake. Now, Fuhr was also the team's starting goalie on the first 4 teams, but was injured and did not play in the 1990 playoffs when the Oilers won for the 5th time. Ranford got the majority of the starts. In 87, Fuhr played in goal for the NHL All-Stars in both games of the Rendezvous 87 series against the Soviets, and in 88 he backstopped Canada to a victory at the Canada Cup, in the 87 Canada Cup, playing in all 9 games. He then played 75 regular season games and 19 playoff games, marking one of the largest game totals in goaltender history. He won his only Vezina trophy as NHL's top goalie that year and finished second in voting for the Hart as league MVP behind Mario Lemieux, and also head of teammate Wayne Gretzky. He also played in the NHL All-Star Game in 84, 85, 86, 88, 89, and Fuhr's playoff success fed into his reputation as the supreme clutch goalie of his era, and there was a period of time from 87 through at least 89 where Fuhr was often called the best goalie in the world. Well, the only argument that some people would have on this, ladies and gentlemen, is that the fact he'd sometimes give up too many goals in a game or be out of position, but he would make up with it for a save later on. Now, this is where the negativity came in, ladies and gentlemen. Due to information provided in an SI article and other investigations by the league, he was eventually suspended by the NHL for 59 games for the 1991 season. Fuhr had come forward previous to that about his drug use after spending 2 weeks in a counseling center in Florida. He admitted that he used a substance, not specifying whether or not it was cocaine, for some 7 years, or most of the period that the Oilers rested at the top of the NHL. Details of Fuhr's drug use were supplied by his ex-wife Corinne, who told the press in Edmonton that she often found cocaine hidden in his clothing, and that she fielded numerous threatening telephone calls from drug dealers who had not been paid. These embarrassing details no doubt contributed to the 1-year suspension handed down in September 90 by NHL President John Ziegler. And we also know that Boris Salming was given a similar suspension for just admitting he did cocaine but not convicted. Now, Ziegler called Fuhr's conduct dishonorable against the welfare of the league. After missing 59 games and entering a 2-week rehab program, the suspension was lifted by the league on February 18, 1991. Once Fuhr was reinstated, fans of opposing teams taunted him at games with bags of sugar. Now, that's the first part of the podcast. The second part will talk about the rebirth of Grand Fuhr in other teams in the league. But I must say this, it just seemed the press was picking on him a lot back in the day, especially U.S. press, made up a whole bunch of nothing over the fact that Glenn Sater helped do his taxes well. Not everybody's a financial wizard. I get a person who I met in grade 7 to do my taxes. Does that make me a bad person or stupid or whatever? But I think some of the media was out to get him because Grand Fuhr wasn't really a friend of the media. Like what you see is what you get. So that's part 1 of the Grand Fuhr story. Part 2, stay tuned.